In 1852, wealthy banker Isaac Kirtland bought 3 acres of land on what was then the outskirts of Memphis and built a 2-story home for his family. In 1883, a cotton merchant named James Columbus Neely bought the house and began the ornate renovations that have created the Mallory-Neely House that we see today.
The collections, the furnishings, the interiors are all original to the house and the family. And so what we see in the house is as the Neelys had it decorated it at the turn of the century. And it's one intact, authentic piece. It's not a conglomeration of sort of period or of the style of kind of era. They're the actual pieces, they're the actual, collections that the family had. So it's like they walked out down the street to go to church or something, and we get to step into their house and see how they lived.
It's remarkable to find any Victorian-era home with so many of its original fixtures intact.
I guess one of the most striking things is when you first come into the house, the entry doors themselves, the stained glass windows are from the World's Fair, from Chicago. And also when you walk into the entry room, the entry hall, which is the grand hall, this is where you in Victorian times you show your prominence, and it sets the tone for the house. It's a very public space, very elegant and opulent. You see up the grand staircase, the stained glass window on the landing. That also was purchased by the Neelys after the Chicago World's Fair.
The house has 25 rooms and approximately 16,000 square feet. The Italianate architecture and high Victorian style are evident everywhere. Look up and you'll see frescoes on the ceiling and elaborate plasterwork. That's not burl wood inlay on the doors. It's faux wood grain painting, which was very popular with the Victorians. The double parlor is filled with imported furniture and expensive carpets, all designed to impress visitors. 2 massive gaslight chandeliers hang from the ceiling, a remnant of the days before Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. And in one corner is an embroidered silk screen from China that the Neelys purchased at the St. Louis World's Fair in 1904.
Each of the 4 panels represents one of the seasons of the year. And it's a teak wood frame, and that piece was actually chosen to be sent to the St. Louis World's Fair by the last Empress Dowager of China.
Portraits of James Neely and his wife overlook the dining room table with seating for up to 24 people. The family would dress for dinner and be served by a staff of 7. And the servants made sure the business of the house ran smoothly.
The house was heated by coal fireplaces, 20 coal fireplaces throughout the house, and that took a lot of work to keep all that going. And the rooms had servants' call buttons, bells, to push to have someone come and see what your need was. There's actually, there was a mechanism under the floor in the dining room where the master of the house could press it down with his foot to call someone to come to attend to the table.
Behind the main house is the servants' quarters. Prior to emancipation, this was the home to the house's slaves. Little is known about their names or their lives. The rooms upstairs are not as elegant as their downstairs counterparts. After the turn of the century, the Neelys' youngest daughter, Daisy, married cotton merchant Barton Mallory, and their family lived on the 2nd floor. Daisy's sister Pearl and her family occupied the 3rd floor. The last resident of the house was Daisy's daughter, Frances. Affectionately known as Miss Daisy, she lived in the house with her female companion, an African-American woman named Annie Bess, who had been a chambermaid for Daisy's parents.
After her husband passed away and Miss Daisy's husband passed away, because their age was only 10 years separate, and they'd known each other for decades, and Annie Bess moved into the house. It was just so sort of interesting and very, 1940s, 50s Memphis, very unusual to have an elderly, white lady and elderly black lady both living side by side in the bedrooms upstairs in the mansion.
Daisy Neely Mallory died in 1969 at the age of 98, having witnessed nearly a century of changes to the world surrounding her home. She wanted the house preserved as a museum and today it stands as one of the finest examples of Victorian-era residences in the country.
This is one place that's been here unchanged for 160 years. It is a moment captured in time.